Well, hello, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome to the official District 40 podcast. My name is Johnny Randolph, and I am going to pass it over to my next co-host.
Well, who is that? Is it me?
Whoever my co-host wants to step up.
All right, I'm going to take it. Good evening, everyone. Great to be with you guys. And I'll go ahead and throw it over to Dawn.
Hey, thanks, Althea. Hey, everyone. Hope you're having a great evening. This is Don Schulze. I'll turn it over to Doris.
Hey, everyone. And we're back from the conference. So good to see everybody. And I'm going to turn it over to our next co-host.
Right, we grew a co-host, everybody.
Sure did.
Good evening, fellow
ETM.
distinguished Toastmasters around the world from District 40. I am Tracy Baker in Dayton, Ohio, and I'm so glad to be here.
All right, welcome, Tracy.
All right.
And I guess Tracy was too humble to say it. We should mention that he is the Club Growth Director elect for the 2023-2024 term. All right, give it up. Congratulations, sir, on such an auspicious occasion. For the people who may not know out there, tell us, what is a Club Growth Director?
Mr. Johnny Randolph, fellow Toastmaster, and especially past District Director Don Schulze, the role of the Club Growth Director is to help improve the quality of the existing clubs while looking for opportunities to grow the district, adding new clubs, adding new corporate education programs, talking to people all around the world to see if they can come and enjoy what the benefits are from District 40. So my job next year will be very simple, to make sure that our clubs are quality clubs, they start on time, they have people that have members that want to be there, and everyone is enjoying the wonderful bounty and abundance of Toastmasters, at the same time looking for realistic and very wonderful opportunities to grow our district with new clubs. That's my job as Club Growth Director, Mr. Johnny Randolph.
Awesome.
Nice.
Awesome. And I'm pretty sure, guys, we're going to get into it a lot later. But as you all may know, we're fresh off the District 40 conference.
Hey.
And I know that I might be jumping to the gun, but I am here to say without an absolute doubt, it was a major success.
Yes, I would say so too. I would say so too. I think District 40 definitely showed out this year. They showed me a great time. This was my first conference. And it was really great to be able to put names with faces. I mean, virtually, yeah, I saw your face on the screen, but there were a lot of people that didn't realize who I was in person.
Right.
Until they saw me doing a role or something. Like, wait, you're Althea? I'm like, yeah, we were talking yesterday.
Right. I just saw you yesterday on screen.
Yeah. So, but it was great to like put names and faces together. And I really felt like I knew these people, even though I've never met them. So that was a great experience for me. What about you, Don?
Oh, I loved it. I thought it was a great time. It was a great experience, quality educational sessions, wonderful contests. I just love the whole event. Even the business meeting where, sometimes it has its ups and downs.
Yeah,
it was great demonstration.
That was the time. That
was
was
a
great.
great demonstration of collaboration and working through it. So again, I'm missing people. I thought it was wonderful to see everyone. Now, I got to tell you a funny story. Somebody walked up to me and said, "Wow, Steve Grant, I've been looking to meet with you."
Well, now you know how it feels.
Yes.
We get that all the time. And Derek Boyer, we get that all the time.
Oh my gosh, yes, I love that.
Oh, that's funny.
Althea, let me ask you, as a first timer, did the conference live up to your expectations?
I think so. I think Christine and her team did a phenomenal job of just really making it feel like a family reunion. So from Friday evening all the way through Sunday afternoon, it literally felt like reconnecting with family members I haven't seen in years. From the education sessions, like Dawn mentioned, to the business meeting, which that was a great experience to be had in person, to the speech contest. These are like the first for me. So I felt like from that perspective, the district was able to deliver for those folks who were able to be there in person. I would love to hear from some folks that joined virtually and see what their experiences were, but hopefully that could be an incentive for them to actually come in person. So we're not going to share just yet where the conference is going to be next year. I think that's going to come out at some point in our discussion this evening, but hopefully people that were there this 2 weekends ago will just share this information with others to inspire them to be in person next year. So I think they did a great job.
Yeah.
All right, well, we've got a special guest in waiting. I'm going to turn it over to you, Miss Latang, and let you introduce our special guest for this episode of the District 40 podcast.
All right, folks. So we have a special episode. We're not doing our norm. We're just throwing away that sheet and we're just going to kind of wing it. But tonight we have a pretty special guest in our midst. I want to introduce you guys to Katie Fuller. She has been a Toastmaster since 2018 and is a member of Dayton United Communicators in Dayton, Ohio. She earned her Distinguished Toastmaster Award and has held several club and district leadership roles. DTM Fuller is a briefer for Ohio's new educators and the Ohio Education Association, where she presents on a wide range of workshops to Ohio educators. Katie is a mother, she's an educator, she's a fitness enthusiast, and a spiritual believer. She is also our 2023 District 40 International Speech Contest winner and has the opportunity, that's great, yeah. And she has the opportunity to compete at the World Championship of Public Speaking later on this summer in Nassau, Bahamas, during the Toastmasters Convention in August. So with that, please join me in welcoming to our podcast episode, Distinguished Toastmaster Katie Fuller.
Woo!
Hello, Katie, how are you?
Hello, Athena and everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm super excited to be here this evening.
Yeah, we are excited to have you.
Has the
District 40
International
International Speech Contest winner.
Yes.
That's pretty big. So share with us, like, when your name was announced as the winner, like, what was the first feeling that you experienced in that moment?
Woo! It was a wide range of feelings. Like, it was the bubbly guts because it was a really tough competition, I think. And like, I don't know what you guys thought, but I was like, man, I am with some amazing speakers, some dynamic speakers. But when Ashley said, it's like this startling moment. It was like, I couldn't believe it. It was the moment I have been waiting for. And it was a very, very, very good moment for me. It was, I was like, I'm too cool to be out here crying, but I almost dropped a tear in that moment because, I mean, like 3 years ago, I was in the same space with Becca, as you all know, and I placed third place. And I thought, like, man, this is such a great moment for me to be here as District 40's first place champion. So I was super excited in that moment.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. We felt the excitement. We felt the accomplishment in that moment for you. Yeah. So you've been a Toastmaster for about 5 years now. What got you inspired to compete in our district speaking contests?
Whew. This has been a journey for me, a journey of 1,000 miles that I have started years ago. I think it was like 2018 that I was just this like timid, soft-spoken speaker at Dayton, or not even Dayton United Communicators, Downtown Morning Toasters. And I started sharing my story there. And there I met this guy, DTM Tracy Baker. And I'm like, he was speaking there and I'm thinking like, oh my God, I want to speak like him. And he was like giving a speech, I think on baseball. And after the meeting, I went down, I'm like, hey, excuse me. Can you show me how to speak like you? And the rest is history. But it was my mentor actually who inspired me to get right into it. Like what you get in is what you put in is what you get out. And so he inspired me to get into a contest 3 years ago. I think it was back in 2018. And it was just the rest that just gave me the confidence. And then once I, lost at third place, I got back in the lab and I'm like, I'm ready to do this because it's destiny for me.
I love that. I love that story, that journey you took us on. Well, I'll go ahead and turn things over to my co-host. I'm sure they have tons of questions for you, Katie.
Sure. Thank you.
I have one, Katie. How many times did you practice that speech? And the second part is, what do you think you get out of participating in contests?
Wow. So the strategy for that, actually, I've lost count for how many times I've gone over. I mean, my 8-year-old daughter can actually recite this speech from start to finish, seriously, as many times as I've gone over this and, hey guys, listen to this. So every time actually I'm in the car driving, I'm giving this speech. I'm living this speech. So it's constantly going in my head. It's in at night and simmering it over in the nighttime, but genuinely in my car, every time I get in the car, I'm like going and rehearsing it over in my head. So actually I can't answer that question to say how many times I have delivered that speech. But what I believe, what you get out of competing at our Toastmasters competition is exactly what you saw. Confidence, leadership, being a competent communicator, because there's something about being a part of a contest that just boosts your confidence, because not only is it just the whole process of being in the contest, but for me, it's who I became, who you become along the journey. Because for me, now I can't speak for everybody else or anyone who's ever been in a contest, but for me, this is real business. This is life for me. This is destiny for me. And all Toastmaster does for me is provide a platform. So for me, the big thing is just the confidence in who you become, the prep, everything that I had to put into this to be here was worth it. It was worth the price of the admission for me.
Awesome. That's
Katie,
great.
I've
Thank
got
you,
a
Katie.
question.
Sure.
Sorry, go ahead. So you talked about giving a speech over and over and over, and I know I have to assume that part of that practice was giving it in front of live audiences. And whenever you give a speech in front of live audience, you get a lot of feedback, which you welcome. Now, some of that feedback is not in line with what your expectations were. And some of it you might even raise an eyebrow like, what are you talking about? Anyway, my question is, how do you handle receiving the constant feedback, especially when it's not in line with what your expectations were?
Johnny, you said it. Alignment is key. Alignment is key for anything, whether it's feedback or alignment is key for whatever you're doing in life. And if it doesn't align, it really doesn't matter. I mean, it's welcome. And whether it's solicited or unsolicited, it's about alignment. So for me with the feedback, feedback is really good. And it actually has helped me. There's been times where people has given me some things and I'm like, I didn't think about that. Like, let me try that. I try it on, I see if it fit. And again, if it aligns, then I'm like, okay, let me rock with it. But if it didn't, it's like, it's like, thank you, but no, thank you. You just kind of, like you said, have to take it with a grain of salt. You can't take it because otherwise you're like this, you're waving and you're moving. And it's not that it's not appreciated or welcome. It's just like you said, it's all about alignment. So for me, it was just really about whether or not it fit. And there was actually a couple of things that some people mentioned, and I thought like, wow, that really actually helped me. And it helped me with my perspective and see things a little bit differently. So I'm all about feedback and receiving that, especially when it's working for what I need and where I want to be. And I'm always looking at who's giving me the feedback too, because I think that's important. I mean, not to say that, Mojo off the street don't have something to say, but I'm always looking to see who are you somewhere where I've been or where I want to go? Because if it worked for you, then I'm open for it, And if it's, just a kind of a good idea, because there were some things that people have said, and I kind of gave them, like you said, the side eye, like, you want me to make my picture smaller? You don't think that? Okay. All right. But yeah, so it's all about whether or not it aligns with where I'm going or where I want to go.
So I wanted to say I appreciated your speech and your story, and I thought your speech was like a roller coaster. You had some funny things, of course, some sad things, some hard things. And I appreciate that you had the confidence to share your story. What made you want to tell this particular story about your life as a speech? Like, how did you pick this as a...
Like I mentioned, this is destiny for me, Doris. And thank you for giving me that feedback. I appreciate that because that's always good. Like I mentioned, I like to hear the feedback because I wanted to see how this resonated with people. A lot of women will come to me and they'll say, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. But it was like men that really don't really give me the feedback. And, that's important. Right. I want it to be a universal message. But Doris, to your question, this is destiny for me. It took me 8 years to share this story.
Okay.
This story was near and dear to my heart, not just because I want to tell people my story, but I needed to. This was part of what needed to happen. And I don't know if I can say this or not. I don't care because this is how I show up. But God called me for this. I had to tell this story because people need to hear this. This is to break barriers and break yokes for people.
Yeah.
And Toastmasters provided a platform for me in sharing my story, and it literally saved my life. This story to me was important because it's about finding beauty in your brokenness.
Okay.
And so this universal message speaks to everybody, a man, woman, Black, white, young or old, and they need to hear this because this was my life. This is my story. And it was therapy. It was therapy for me to share this story, to get it out, and to be on my journey of 1,000 miles, because this is just scratch the surface of where I want to go with this story. So this story in particular is near and dear to my heart because it speaks to the big theme of finding your beauty in your brokenness.
Well, I thought you did an outstanding job. Outstanding.
Thank you.
Distinguished Toastmaster Katie Fuller, you distinguished yourself this year by becoming a distinguished Toastmaster in only 5 years. In one of the first speeches I heard you said, it's been a long, long, long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, and I said to myself, what do we have here? The young Diana Ross? And I knew that day that you were going to be on the world stage. Listen, Johnny and Doris and Don and out there, I don't care what we try to sell in Toastmasters. Toastmasters is a great program. It's going to help you. You can't mentor that right there. That's natural talent. That's passion. That's people saying, no, you can't. But then they say, I can. That speech she gave, the first few iterations of it, was nothing like it was that she gave on that stage a couple of weeks ago. That speech that she gave a couple of weeks ago seemed like she went literally into a lab, put a bunch of combustible chemicals together, put a little bit of love and passion, stirred it up, tasted it, no, it ain't right yet, put some salt and pepper on it, then boom, it was what you saw on that screen. And what I want to say to her and everybody in listening land is that you all can find your recipe to tell your story. Not everyone's going to do what she did. Forget it. It's not going to happen. She's already the world champion of public speaking because she came from Dayton United Communicators. That's why, not because of any other reason. But I'm letting you all know that when you have a voice, you have a choice. When you take that voice and you make it moist and delicious like a Dunkin' cake, because I am a baker. I am a baker. Find a way to let that confection go to the top and that cake becomes a beautiful dessert that can be shared with all. So I just want to congratulate distinguished Toastmaster Katie Fuller for doing what she's done. And I just want to encourage everyone on this call and everyone in our midst, in our hearing, listening area, to understand that this right here is hard work. It is sacrifice. It is passion. And at the end of the day, whatever cake you end up with is the cake that you're going to eat, the cake you're going to share, the cake you're going to serve. And we hope that it's as good as what she gave us last weekend.
DTM Baker, that is so true. Exactly what you said. It really goes back to what Doris asked. This has been my journey of me sharing my voice, and I'm hoping that it will inspire people because Toastmaster will provide that. You're right. This is something innately inside of me that Toastmasters has given me the platform to grow, and I can appreciate that because it was, in the beginning, it was like, I want to be safe, and it's like, no. When I began to live my authentic self and my story, that's what you saw come across was passion, was being authentic, was me sharing my voice. And my story was just like you said, just a small ingredient, because anybody can tell their story, because we all have a story. We all have a voice. It's just a matter of being authentic and sharing that authenticity with the rest of the world. And so, like I said, it took me 8 years to be where I am, to be able to share that and do that in an authentic way, for it to come across in the way that it did. And so I'm glad that it inspired you, Doris. It inspired you, Athena. It inspired you, Johnny and Don, and everyone else who's listening on the call, because that was the objective, was to inspire people to action.
That's my favorite part of the contest. When Tracy talked about it started off as something, and then as you went on, it was completely something else. And through that process, from my experiences in the contest, it does change you. You are a different person by the time you give the last iteration of that speech. And that's whether you make it to the area, the division, the district, finish first, second, third, whatever. The work that you've put in, the feedback that you've gotten, the adjustments that you've made, you are a different person.
So will you work on it more for the regionals, or are you putting more to it? Or you?
Doris, it's in a crock pot right now. I got to keep it
Okay.
nice and moist and warm. Just as DTM Tracy Baker said, you got to keep it nice and moist and warm. So I'm constantly allowing it to like live out, because it has changed. That
Okay.
speech has changed so many times. In fact, actually, the interesting fact about it was actually my icebreaker. It was my icebreaker right at Downtown United. I mean, the Downtown Morning Toasters. And if they're watching, they'll remember that speech. And actually, Judy came up to me and said something to me and was like, "Oh my God, like that's the speech that you gave." I actually gave that at Duck. And Tracy saw and heard that story, and it has evolved into something totally different, because it was just that I just wanted to see, like, what is it that the people need to hear, and what is it that I want to share, and where am I right now, and how do I want to use that to live to my 3 core values: to teach, reach, and inspire people to action. So answer your question, it is in a crock pot, and it probably won't change much. And I can't say that. And, you know, life might happen, and I might want to add a few extra spices like we do with any ingredient. But I think the core message is finding beauty in your brokenness.
Right. Nice.
Well, Katie, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you.
Yes, I'm super honored to be here. Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
You are an inspiration.
Bringing home the tree. Thank you, Don. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I keeping my fingers crossed. I want to bring you home this World Championship public speaking. Represent Dayton, or excuse me, District 40 in August in the Bahamas.
Yes.
Good luck to you, man. We know you're going to kill it.
Speak it into existence. Speak it into existence.
Yes. Where 2 or more are gathered.
That's right.
It is in the midst, agreeing upon anything.
That's
and
right.
Anything. So let's go ahead and do this.
Amen.
5 at 724.
All right.
Woo! Yeah.
Wow, what a great story. That was awesome. She's so dynamic. So as we are doing a look back on the conference, we'll start with you, Don. Don, what were some of your highlights from this year's District 40 conference?
I really just love seeing all the people. That really was from Friday night. You talk about a fun night. The photo booth and of the dancing. I just love getting and seeing people and hanging out with them and seeing how they're doing. I feel we missed so much during the COVID experience that we really didn't get to build those connections. And I just love seeing people. So the whole conference was awesome. And one of my favorite things I have to say is we had so many new people. We had so many new people at the first timers. Althea is one amongst us who was a first timer, but I just love seeing all the people who've experienced the conference for the first time, with my hope that they come back every year and bring more first timers. So I was excited. It was an awesome event.
Awesome. And, you know, I interviewed several people, and that was the common thing. It was just being back in person, seeing
Sure.
all the people that you hadn't seen in a while, and kind of what Althea was saying at the beginning, you look different on camera. People look different. I was like, oh, you're taller than I imagined, or you're
Yes.
shorter than I imagined, or your
Yep.
voice. Yeah, it was just such a phenomenal experience just being back in person again.
Absolutely.
On over to Althea. We've got another guest coming in. So, Althea, would you let the people know who our next guest coming in is?
Absolutely, absolutely. So our next guest is Steve Lanham, and Steve has been a member of Toastmasters since
Nice.
2004 and is a member of Midway Toastmasters in Kentucky. He has completed multiple DTMs. I think we have another host in the midst that has several DTMs under their belt as well, and has also completed 8 paths in the Pathways education system.
Wow.
Steve, in the real world, he is a technical business analyst, which means that he gathers requirements for software and serves as a translator between the tech folks and normal people. Also, Steve competed in the humorous speech contest during our District 40 conference weekend, and he was our first place winner. Yeah, so we got the winners with us
The
tonight, you guys. So please join me in welcoming to our podcast episode, Steve Lanham.
Woo!
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Steve.
Hello, Steve. Welcome to the podcast, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. I've just been on airplanes a lot today, so I've got my little nap. So I think I'm ready to go now.
All right, you're recharged and ready to go.
That's right.
He flew right in for this speech.
Sure
for
did.
this
I love it. I
podcast.
love it. So, Steve, you won first place in the humorous contest 2 weekends ago. Tell us, what did that feel like in that moment when you heard your name being announced as the winner of that contest?
Well, it was a great thrill to hear
Mhm.
my name being called. When I stand up there, I really didn't know what was going to happen. When I sat down, then it really hit me. Wow, did that just happen? And I've just felt so grateful for what Toastmasters has done for me over all the time that I've been involved in Toastmasters. But the interesting thing that I felt was right after doing the speech. And I came down off that stage and I was just shaking just from pure adrenaline of doing that speech in front of so many people.
Mhm. You made it look so easy. Both you and Katie, you guys made it look so easy up there.
Thank you.
Let me tell you what, being in the audience, I don't know as if I was serving as a judge, like how I would even make a decision, because you guys were all hilarious. It just made me realize how many comedians we have in our district and great storytellers. You guys did an excellent job.
I agree.
But yeah. And you ran out of man cards. I saw you giving out man
Man
cards.
cards. Right, right.
I
That's
need
right.
one.
At the
I
end,
need
I
a
think
man
Tracy
card.
was waiting for one.
Yes, I
I've
was.
got
I was.
one.
He gave the last one out before I got there.
He sure did. He sure did. Well, go ahead and turn things over to my co-host to see if they have any questions for you.
I have questions for Mr. DTM Steve Lanham. Steve Lanham, you have always been an inspiration to me. You're funny. You have a quirky about yourself, and it's just really hilarious. How can you help me as the incoming club growth director parlay your success in the Kentucky area? Because I want to be able to promote you as Kentucky's and the District 40 Humorous Speech Contest 2023. I would love to have you somehow get input or do flyers or even come and do speeches in person with some of the areas in Kentucky to kind of build that area up. Any thoughts on that?
Okay. Well, I have a saying that I share with people a lot, especially when they come to visit our club, Tracy. And one of those things is that at Midway Toastmasters, my club, we have a lot of fun in our club meetings, and I love to have fun. And as you tell from my speech, I love to have fun and poke fun at myself. And I think it's very important for us when we come together to have fun. But the second part of that is that we are serious about our self-development. So we are serious about our self-development, but we have fun in accomplishing that.
So,
Quick
Steve.
follow-up to that. Okay, go ahead, Johnny.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay,
Trey.
quick follow-up to that. That's for both you and Katie. Steve, you both use props so effectively. You both use vocal variety so effectively. Steve, your man card all the way through, and the humor was just so. It's like you two went in and trained together as boxers. Mike Tyson and who else would you know? Well, Katie wouldn't know anybody. She's too young to know anybody. But it's almost like Rocky versus, and you just went in there and knocked it out. I would just say, what would you tell people about giving these speeches where they share their screen and they're sitting there so dry and boring? What advice would either of you give about sprucing up your speeches like you all did with your props and with your vocal variety?
You mean as far as being online or in person? Either way, okay. Yeah, well, in person, I feel like you feed off the energy of the audience. And, standing up there, I mean, it was a big mountaintop high being on that stage in front of so many people, hearing that laughter, and then, pausing because you have to let them laugh. You don't want to stomp on the laughter. So that was very important for me. And I feel like it's very important for me and for anybody else who does a speech like this. If it's serious, if it's comedic, whatever it is, you have to be yourself. So I have found a style that works for me. And my style, and I knew who I am. I have this quirky style. I have this Kentucky country boy voice. And I accept that. Just like I accept my less manliness, I accept that, and it's okay because that's who I am, and I can parlay that into success. So I have to give the speech the way that's successful for me. Katie has to give the speech that's the way it's successful for her. Now, if I were to get up there and try to do Katie Ford, I would fall flat on my face. So I have to be the best Steve Lanham that I can be.
Steve, you
love it.
On the head. You are
I
so
love that.
right. And it goes back to me talking about being authentic. I mean, I come from a world of theatrics. For me, you always are going to get the animation. Like, it has nothing to do about Tracy being my mentor. That's me. I come straight from the world of theatrics. So every time you get me, you're going to get extra. And if you don't feel comfortable using props, don't do it. And like some of my other contestants, they didn't use props, and they're like, I'm not doing that because it will show in your performance. So I'm all about the performance. And Johnny said that he was like, that was a great performance. And I thought about it like, I guess it was a performance. And that's important. Vocal variety, all of that. I'm not about dry toast. Like, I'm all about juicy, keeping it moist, keeping it hit, keeping it fresh. And that's how it's going to come across. So you never know what you're going to get with me. And you're absolutely right, Steve. Play on your strengths. And if that's your strengths, as you coming from a Kentucky accent, and my strengths is feeling comfortable with animations and vocal variety, go for it.
That's right.
Show.
So, Steve, I have a question for you.
Certainly.
First of all, congratulations again.
Thank you.
Great job. Humor is very special kind of speech, as you know. What advice do you give people? You mentioned pausing a little earlier here, but what else about, other than being yourself, what other tips or tricks do you have for giving an effective humorous speech?
Well, as you all know, humor is defined differently by different people. So I have to look at what is funny to me. Now, as I was doing the speech, and I'm listening early, and Katie said she did the speech, many, many times. And I actually gave the speech at my club or at another club 10 times, including the district speech contest. And it changed a lot over that time. But for me, in order to be humorous, it's poking the fun, teasing the fun out of whatever happens to me in life. And generally, to do that, it has to be something that I'm not actually good at, or that I failed at, or one of my things that I'm just not good at. And I think if I can use that, like the less manly man scenario that I used in my speech, then that allows people to say, well, yeah, Steve's poking fun at himself. I heard Darren LaCroix say, humor is poking fun at ourselves or lifting people up, and comedy is poking fun at others and tearing people down. And I agree with that, because, and Craig Valentine says, people usually don't want to hear me being the hero of my own story. So if I can poke fun at myself and then show, well, actually, I did start out this way, but now I'm this way, and it's okay. But one thing that was very interesting in my speech, I'm a writer by trade, and I love turning wonderful phrases and using alliteration and using clever phrases and all of that. And as I think about my speech, people didn't laugh at those clever phrases. They laughed at the concepts. They laughed at the little surprises, especially like, when I pull out of my toolbox, okay, what are the two most important tools in any LM squared toolbox? Google and YouTube. People just love
that was fun.
And the use of props is also critical, I thought, in my speech, but you can use props too much also. So I had to choose very carefully what props I would use, and people love the toolbox and then blowing the dust off the toolbox. You know why? Because they were surprised by that, and it just reinforced that point that this guy doesn't even use his toolbox very often.
Yeah,
So those would be the couple things that I would suggest.
good. Great, thanks.
I think we were talking with Katie earlier about the feedback that she received as she was preparing for the district contest. And I think I heard someone in the audience mention that it was actually a suggestion for your toolbox to have like dust on it.
Mhm.
Is that right? Yeah. So it just kind of goes to show how you take those pieces of feedback and you apply what needs to be applied. And then you graciously accept the other feedback, kind of keep that in your tool belt until it's time to use them. So I love the fact that, you were able to incorporate that feedback you got as you were preparing for this speech contest. So that's pretty awesome.
And feedback's very important because, the sign I held up, someone gave me feedback on that. Why don't you have a sign? So I put that in there. The actual phrase LM squared was not in my original speech. My wife, Cynthia, said, why don't you use that? So you get feedback all through the process, and it's very important to listen to that. And as Katie said, some of it just fits right in, and some of it just doesn't fit me or doesn't fit the time constraint. People say, well, you need to explain this. And well, if I do explain everything, my speech is going to be 30 minutes long. And you have to trust. And for example, at the beginning when I said, no, this was, I felt in the drawer and it was a tea bag and just lift that up. No, in the first version of the speech, I was explaining what was going on with that. And they said, you don't need to explain that. People would get it.
Yep.
So if you watch people, the stand-up comics, they have a lot of pauses and they let the audience draw their own picture. And the speech experts say that too. You don't have to explain everything. Let the audience draw their own picture. And then the speech. And one other thing about feedback I want to say, and that is, I mentioned I gave a speech, 10 times in my club and one other club. So what happens then is Midway Toastmasters and Lexington Toastmasters. This is no longer just Steve Lanham's speech. This speech belongs to the members of my club too.
Yes.
Because they can see where it started. And to be honest, it was pretty different because only one of the original stories in the original speech is in the finished speech that I gave at the conference, but it belongs to them too. And they can see how you take a speech and you think it's pretty good. Well, you can make it that much better with more work.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I had that exact thought. They were on that journey with you. They watched that speech kind of grow from like a child to this adolescent, now this full grown adult that's won the humorous contest. So thank you for taking us on that journey. Does anyone else have questions for Stevie?
I have a question for both. So when I first met Johnny and he was in the speech contest, he would go to other clubs to see the competition before so he could he would do reconnaissance. I thought that was very good. Did either of you guys do any of this, like to see the competition? What am I up against?
Eddie, you want to go first? Or?
Actually, I heard Becca speak. I didn't hear the other contestants. I didn't get a chance to get out to hear those, but I did actually go and hear Becca speak. And that was actually something that I had been on the lookout, just listening and kind of just chiming in. I mean, because I think anybody
I better get on my game. That's
anybody that's doing that, you want to look, whether you feel like you can do it or not, you still want to know what they're about and what you're up against. So you can know, any good opponent, I would think, would do that. So I definitely did.
And for me, Doris, obviously we had the Division D and Division E contest together. So I got to hear John Mitchell's speech. No,
Okay.
but for me, it's really competing against myself.
Okay.
No, I mean, the other people, yeah, and I heard what they were speeches, and I thought they did a great job. But for me, at the end of the day, is did I do the best that I can do with that speech, and did I put the time and preparation in to do the best that I can do? That's what's important.
Yes, Steve.
And what happens, so I've been in a lot of speech contests, and there have been speech contests where I knew, yes, that other person was the best speaker today. There have
Really?
been contests where I've thought, well, I thought I did better than that person. But that's okay. At the end of the day, it's whatever the judges decide. And I think Toastmasters is like the American judicial system. It might not be perfect, but it's the best I've ever seen. And I think Toastmasters is too.
One of the things
Okay.
we have in the chat, Rick Seabree, he said, winning the competition has made Steve a more manly man.
Okay, am I supposed to respond to that?
You can
You can if you
can
want
kill
to.
the mouse, man. You can kill the
I
mouse.
think he's just baiting me. But the competition. Well, let's think about the speech. And some people have mentioned this. I won't name names, but one person said, there's a message in that speech, even though Steve doesn't really do an explicit message at the end. But the message is that we're all okay the way we are. I'm a less manly man in a world, we have stereotypes where big man like that. But I'm okay. And if I'm okay with myself, you can be okay with yourself. And so I wear the label LM squared proudly.
All right.
Obviously,
So
Cynthia loves it
that
too.
brought up another question for me when you said that. Do you try to put in a message in your humorous speech, like tell a serious message through humor, or are you just telling your story and if people take a message from it, they get a message from it?
Well, it depends on the speech situation. Let me say it that way. And for a humorous speech, now I still feel like it's a speech and not a story. And a story is just a narrative telling, in my opinion, of what happened. And then, you let people draw their own conclusion. In a humor speech, I feel like it's more, you have to structure it a little bit differently, which I did. And I did kind of have a little charge at the end, but it's funny with telling other LM squares to claim their man cards and be proud of themselves. But there's a larger message for anybody in that speech. And I didn't really go there. If I were to do this speech for an international speech contest, I might have a little bit more of a charge or a message at the end that kind of drives the point home. So I think humor speeches, I back away from that just a little bit more than I would in an international speech.
Okay.
Katie and Steve, I got a couple questions if you'll allow me.
Kind of got to. Okay, go ahead. Go
Gotta
ahead.
go? No, if you gotta go, we gotta go.
ahead.
I was just gonna say I competed my last contest about 2014. I was DTM Tracy Baker with all these DTMs or whatever, and I got beat in a division contest by a man who had been in Toastmasters for 3 months. My question, both of you, very quickly is: how do you deal with defeat? Does it make you stronger? What advice would you give others about coming back to compete? And the second part of that, the judges were unfair. I should have won. How do you quell that kind of talk to make sure that people are giving the judges their due respect? And I'm done with the questions after that.
Because that would have been me. Oh, this thing is bogus.
Yeah, that's a very good question, Tracy. And it's a very real scenario because, as I mentioned before, there have been contests where I felt like I did a fairly good job and the judges didn't see it that way. And that's what I have to remember is that the judges are all different individuals with different life experiences, with different lenses that they view speeches through. And on that particular day, they didn't see Steve Lanham as the best performer that day. And I have to think about it in terms of major league sports, whatever, let's say baseball, for example. Sometimes the pitcher goes out there, he throws a no-hitter. Sometimes he goes out there and he can't get out of the first inning. Doesn't mean he's any worse or any better that same day or those different days. It just means on that other day, his A game wasn't there and the other team beat him. And so, I mean, yeah, there have been times when I've been sorely disappointed in contests where I felt like I should have done better or placed better. But, you know, as far as going out, saying anything to people about that, I've never done that. And I've actually had to give advice as a district leader to people who said, I can't believe I didn't win that contest. What can you do about this? I say, the judges today felt like that speech was better. And the Toastmaster system might not be perfect, but it is the best that I think that we have. So I've had to give that advice to people and then in turn give that advice to myself.
Steve hit it on. I mean, he articulated that very well. I would say 3 years ago, as mentioned before, I came in third place and I thought to myself, I thought I did a damn good job, but I heard my name third place and I felt like so defeated. But instead of being a sourpuss, I went back into the lab and I had to figure out what do I need to do. And I spent 3 years going in the lab, figuring it out, leveling up, doing my best. And that is why today or last week, a couple weeks ago, I showed up in the best way that I could, just as Steve said. And you know what? That was the best that I could give. And if that's what the judges like, and if that's what they get, then I'm okay with that, because I would have been okay in either direction because it was what was best for me and what my ultimate goal was. So I would say to anyone that's competing, because I actually just had to give this advice to someone who was in a different district. I said, you did your best, but that's okay. Go back, get in the lab and come harder next year and stay true and aligned to what you want to share in your message. Use your voice and share your story, your authentic story.
So we shouldn't be mad. Well,
Well,
Toastmasters, I'm done with it.
and because you didn't place first place doesn't mean you didn't give a great speech, right? There's room in this world for more than one message,
Yeah. I think the icing on the cake is winning.
Right. The
But
icing on the
really-
cake is winning.
That's-
But the journey is really where you win and you grow and you
Exactly.
develop. So
Oh,
you
the
guys
journey.
have dropped some great gems tonight. I hope people are actually listening to the advice that you guys are offering. And if they're pursuing wanting to be international speech contest winners, maybe they'll give it a try because you guys inspired them to do that tonight.
You said you came in third a couple of years ago when Steve, you competed before, but I bet there were people who came up to you and said, oh my God, that was amazing, or I needed to hear that, or I understood where you were coming from. So it's about the message. All right. Well, Steve, Katie, thank you for joining us. This was awesome. As I said earlier, feel free to stay or you can drop off. We're going to get some opinions from our panelists and our co-hosts about what were their highlights of the conference. So Don was able to tell us his. Althea, what was your highlight for the conference a couple of weekends ago?
Oh my gosh, it's been almost 2 weeks, I think. For me, the greatest highlight was the opportunity to not only meet, but sit down and have a conversation with our international president. I don't think, being a Toastmaster for almost 6 years, that I would have had the opportunity to actually meet someone at the highest level of our organization. It blows my mind even to this day to think about that. And it was just such an honor to sit there and just talk with him. I forgot we were on the podcast for a little bit. We were just literally just sitting around having a conversation with Matt Kinsey about what it means to be a Toastmaster and how to inspire people. It was just great to see him interacting with the members. Actually, also seeing him on the dance floor too. I'm not sure if you guys saw him out there. Yes, he was out on the dance floor. Yes, he was. It was just so great to see him just really enjoy our district and that he was able to pour into people. He was able to inspire, took down a lot of great notes from all of his keynotes that he gave that weekend. But that was a highlight for me, not only it being my first time in attendance, but getting to meet our international president.
Of it. Doris, what was your highlight of the weekend for the district conference?
Wow, I had so many. I to be honest, I was gonna have low expectations. I thought this is our first time back. I'm not gonna be I'm expecting like low turnout and and it'll be okay because I'll see some of the people, but I didn't expect it to be as good as it was. I thought it was amazing for our first time back in 3 years. So to see all the people, and I got to use all my fun games again, my cameras and videos, and go around and talk to people on camera. So that's always fun to me because that's my thing. And like Katie said, Toastmasters gives me that platform to do that. So I was very excited about that. And then just what Don and Althea said about seeing the people live. And I was one to say, I'm fine with virtual. It didn't bother me. But then when you see them live, it's just totally different. It is totally different. So I have to kind of walk that back a bit and say it is much better being in person than
You almost forget, don't you, Doris?
virtual.
Yeah, you
Huh?
can't hide behind the mute or turning your camera
Oh,
off,
that's
right?
the thing. You
Yeah.
know, the virtual is my mask, right? But then when you
Uh-huh.
see people, you have to actually interact. So
You
that
have to be
was
on your game,
that's right. I had to get back on my game. So that was so that was exciting to me. And especially seeing the people from the other divisions and everything. Prior to the COVID, like we interacted with everybody across the district because we had the TLIs in person and everything. But then after the COVID, it was kind of like you just had your small group, like your club or just the clubs you interacted with. So seeing Sandra and Violet and all those people were that was just good to sit down and talk to them and catch up and find out. They had so many workshops that were great. I thought not necessarily Toastmasters, all mind, body, communication, leadership. I sat in on the leadership panel. That was very good. Althea was on that panel. Don was on that panel. I thought that was very good. They did a great job with that. So I think the whole thing exceeded my expectations, where I was thinking, it's not going to be many people there because it's our first time back. But I thought the committee did a great job for our first time back. So I'm looking forward to getting back into the conferences again. So I'm looking forward to our next one being even greater. So those were some of my highlights.
Doris, you did mention the podcasting education session.
Well, we were saving that for you, John.
I was,
Come on.
yeah, I thought you were gonna say that. I went into the podcasting to heckle Johnny. I was just gonna be that one in the audience to heckle him, but I gave him a break. It was great. He did a great job.
Althea mentioned meeting the president, right? Did everybody here have an opportunity to kind of get some one-on-one time with the president? Wasn't he just as great in person as he was like speaking? Like, you ever meet some speakers or a person where like they're great, then you meet them in person, you're like, well, I didn't really like that.
Yeah.
Right? They always give credence to never meet your heroes, but I thought the president was just as warm and sociable in a one-on-one conversation as he was delivering a keynote address.
Did
I
you
agree.
notice that he remembered everybody's names?
Yes.
Yes.
He made
Very
that a
impressive.
point, didn't he?
One of his principles.
Very
yes.
impressive.
He had to
And
remember 300 names, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And he made his point to talk to every attendee that weekend. Hopefully he did.
Yeah.
Hopefully
Hopefully he did.
Like he did.
He
Every
seemed
time
like
I
he
saw him,
did because
he
it
was
was just
talking to somebody new, right? Whether it was one person or a group of people. I was like,
Mhm.
well,
For
when he
sure.
asked people to raise their hand if he hadn't talked to, it wasn't many people who raised their
Correct.
hands. So
That's true. That's
I
true.
think he did.
That's true.
okay. Well, Tracy, what about you, Mr. DTM Baker? What was your highlight for the conference?
Well, Mr. Johnny, fellow Toastmasters, I have been to conferences all over the world, all over the country, and I've done a lot of things. Even when phone were ringing, I said, you know what, we got to figure out what's going on. I love going to conferences, and this year was especially incredible because not only was it the first time, but we had Matt as well, and it was just an excitement in the air and a buzz. So when I arrived there from Friday through Sunday, it was great, it was wonderful. But the defining moment for me, because I believe in destiny, I believe in people being who and what they are, even from the beginning. Michael Jackson knew who he was from the beginning. Michael Jordan knew who he was from the beginning. And I believe that Katie Fuller has known who she is from the beginning. And the reason why I bring that up is because as I was elected, thank you all very much, to Club Growth Director, I sat up on the dais and we were having our banquet, and I looked out into the crowd, and it warmed my heart to see Katie Fuller with her team, her security team, her personal photographer, her videographer, and I was saying to myself, this is what her future looks like. She has her own personal photographer at the district contest. And I said to myself, this is just the beginning of the incredible future that this speaker is going to have, that started at Downtown Morning Toasters in Dayton, Ohio a few years ago, that was too afraid to get up and talk. And now she is Kintsugi. So when I saw that, it just made me say, this program does work, and this conference is incredible. And that one defining moment was the highlight. Obviously, talking to Matt was incredible. We talked about basketball. We talked about Indiana. We talked about his wife, who I met the next week at District 47 in Florida, and she gave a speech. So I got a chance to talk to her, and she's just as the same as Matt, real personable, wants to talk to everybody, and it was incredible. So I just say that Toastmasters is all about networking. It's all about socializing. It's all about learning and inspiring. And I do believe that the World Champion of Public Speaking that comes out of Dayton, Ohio, is going to show this world how to take whatever you have, whatever acorn, and how to make it into a mighty oak tree. And I saw that at the District 40 conference this past weekend. 2 weekends ago.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
It
And
literally felt like it was last weekend.
It did. It
when you said
did.
2 weekends ago, I was like, really? Oh, that's
Yeah.
what I thought it
Yep, almost 2 weekends ago.
was. For me, my highlight, it really was the two contests, the humorous speech contest and the international speech contest. And I've competed in both of those contests. I've competed at the in the international, at the district level, and I've competed at the division level. And I thought seeing the contestants being back in person again was the highlight, because the Toastmasters program is about being in person. You need to work the stage, your vocal variety, your movement, not just because it's a part of the theatrics or the performance, but it becomes a part of the narrative in telling the story that you are delivering. Like Steve said, being able to pull out that toolbox, that's a little harder to do. Like if you're, on camera, you've got to lift it to the camera and blow into it and make sure, but like, it's just seamless. And Katie had her picture right there. She was able to flip it around and move back, and she used the stage to tell her story, the transformation. Steve, even both of them had arcs. You didn't know what he was doing, this little girly man to being a manly man with his cards, and Katie, her transformation. So the contest is about being in person. I'm not trying to dissuade anybody or, insult anybody that wasn't there, but I feel like this competition, this environment is for the in-person, and just seeing these speakers really go out there and give it their best. I felt like it's an old sports analogy. You leave it all out there on the floor. I felt like every contestant left it all out on the floor, and I really did not want to be a judge. I was like, for the humorous, I was like, ooh, I'm glad I'm just a contest master and I ain't got to fill out this ballot tonight. And I felt the same way about the international speech contest. And again, the graciousness that all the contestants just demonstrated, and I love the parties. I'm not gonna mention everything that happened at the party, because what happened at
Conference stays at conference.
Just say, hey, Toastmasters know how to get down and boogie. That's all I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna leave it at that. So the contest and the partying is what I enjoyed the most about the conference.
I would love to hear from our guests. Aside from winning your respective contests, what was your highlight for the conference weekend?
Go ahead, Katie, and then we'll go over to Steve.
Well, for me, it's just seeing everyone. I really enjoy uh, I really enjoy conferences, and Cynthia, my wife, she's more of an introvert. I'm more of an extrovert. So I just enjoy being around the people and just talking to different people, and going to a meal or going to an event and just sitting at a table with different people throughout and getting to know who are my fellow Toastmasters around the district, because I want to get to know everyone. Now, I'm not as good as Matt Kinsey was in trying to learn everyone's name and talk to every single person, but it's just fun being around people that are as dedicated to their self-improvement as I am.
Awesome.
It was the in-person experience for me and the food, because I'm a foodie. I really enjoy the little side things you guys and the activities that you guys had. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to experience the conference from Friday to Sunday due to prior engagements, but the little bit that I was able to get from the activities on Thursday night when we went to dinner and was able to have the informal conversation with Matt, and you're absolutely right, he is a hoot. It was a good conversation with him talking about his mom and the street lights, just down to earth, and just being able to see people outside of the camera, because Johnny, you're absolutely right. When you see people on camera and then you see them in person, you're like, whoa, that's totally different. They are totally different experiences. So just being back in person, because I'm a person that like to synergize with people and play on the energy of other people, was the big part for me. So I really enjoyed just the overall experience. Kudos to all of the participants and chair members who put that on. You guys did an amazing job, and I can't wait to see what 2024 brings.
All right. Well, District 40 podcast, we did it.
We did.
Another one in the books.
But hey, Johnny, real quick, before we end our podcast episode, we have to tell our viewers and listeners 2024, where's the conference going to be?
Who wants to make that announcement? I think somebody from the city should make that announcement, and I'm looking at two of them.
Our
Our club
growth director,
Our club growth director elect. Share with
I am
us.
proud to announce, District 40 and fellow Toastmasters, that the 2024 District 40 conference will be held in the beautiful Gem City of Dayton, Ohio. Dr. Shirley Stallworth is the conference chair, and it is sure to be an exciting time. We will make sure we stay tuned and keep you all tuned into what's happening in this beautiful city. 2024 District 40 Conference, Dayton, Ohio.
Okay.
Awesome. All right, Dayton.
Can't wait.
I'm looking forward to spending the weekend in Dayton in 2024.
That's right. That's right.
Good stuff. All right. Well, everybody, we did it. Katie,
We did.
Steve, Tracy, thank you guys for joining us. We really appreciate it. I guess what do we have to say? We're going to be looking for Succession next year.
Yeah,
For a
we
new
are.
term.
We are. Yeah. So hard to believe it's been almost a year, you guys. We've been doing this podcast, and we've learned and grew leaps and bounds doing this. And I've had a great time interacting with the members in our district and just getting to know you all a lot better. But like Johnny said, we are looking for folks who are interested in taking on this platform and elevating it to the next level. So if any of our viewers, listeners are interested in learning more about how to become a member of the official District 40 podcast, please feel free to reach out to either myself or Johnny Randolph so that we can get you on board and get you the information you need, and hopefully pass this great platform off to the next generation of Toastmasters to make it even better.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and have a great one. We'll talk to you all